McCaul. And of course, Elegance Bratton. Thank you to all of you for the film and for being with us tonight. Elegance, I'll start with you. You introduced the film saying that this is your story. It's a story that happened more than 15 years ago now. So I'm wondering at what point you thought about it becoming a film. Is this the film you would have made 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Well, it took 6 years to make, so yes, for sure. I would have loved to have made it 5 years ago. This story comes from, I was at Tisch, and I had done my first short film, Walk For Me, and it did pretty well. Played a bunch of festivals, and managed to use it to get a TV show called My House in Viceland, and finally had some money. For once, and I was like, okay, let me sit down and write some scripts, and I wrote the feature version of Walk For Me, and I wrote this film, and then Chester, my love, was like, you need to do the inspection. You have to tell a story that takes the audience to a place they could never, ever go without you, and this is your story. This is the one. It's got to be personal, and it's got to be real. I'll let you say your part, Chester.
That's what I said. Took his long. But no, I understood that, being gay and Marine, and I had met, it was his own particular thing that Elegance had gone through, and I respected and honored, his service. And I met a lot of Elegance's Marine Corps buddies, and I noticed that, as different as they were, Republican, left, right, whatever, they were still brothers, and they still had a bond, and, they protect each other, they help each other when no one else does. So, I'm like, you should tell a story that can, literally try to bridge the left and the right together. And it was this, through your own story, essentially.
Elegance, can you say a bit more about just the process of writing it? And just, being your story and based on your experience in this, wanting to capture a certain truth and authenticity, but also needing distance and really creating a fiction out of it. There seems to be a bit of a tension there. And can you talk about navigating that process?
Sure. I mean, the people on this stage at various points in time in the process helped me figure out that this wasn't about recreating my memories. It wasn't like remembering what happens and just putting a scene together and filming it. This is about what have you learned and what is the core of the humanity of these characters. Where did they come from? I know, Gabby, we had many conversations about, okay, I'm not your mom, bro. I'm an actress. And those conversations were really fruitful. And I think in terms of the writing itself, it was tough because, I always tell people this movie is 100% autobiographical when it comes to the desires, motivations, and fears of French, even if the circumstances aren't necessarily things that I had been through personally, So but when it comes to French and his mother, literally every word, every interaction that comes between them is something that I've experienced with my mom. So trying to figure out that balance of this was really said, for instance, the Jarhead scene, that happened, right? I was in boot camp in the Christmas, and they played Jarhead because they couldn't, torture us. And we watched Jarhead, and my girl instructor was like, this movie's bullshit. And I was like, well, I liked it. So that's why, I put it in there. So it's that balance between what actually happened and what could be resonant to an audience versus what happened and how it affected me, and just learning the difference between this isn't necessarily a therapy session, this is a work of art. And these folks really, really held me accountable in that process, and I'm just forever grateful.
Let's bring everybody else into it. You talked, Chester is your partner, so obviously was there from the very beginning. Can you tell us, Effie, how you came on board, and also just casting Jeremy and Gabrielle in these roles?
Sure thing. I am really grateful that we met in 2018, but it wasn't until 2020 when I took over a company called Game Changer that these, I'm like, there you go, that Chester and Elegance walked this beautiful script in. And it was, when you read this script, it's a no-brainer. You know, it's something that's really special. It was authentic. We had these wonderful filmmakers that were going to help bring it to life. And we also, I just have to say, we had an amazing crew. And a lot of times they don't get thanked.
Thank you, crew.
We really and one wonderful crew person in particular is Kim Coleman. She was an amazing casting director. And that is what led us to Gabrielle and Jeremy. And one of the things that we were very, very clear on, and especially at Game Changer, you can't make something about us without us, is to make sure that we have the most authentic representation. So it was really important to have an out Black queer person playing the role of Ellis. And then your experiences, I would love, I'm sure I'm not gonna take over, producer, to talk about, like, I can't help myself, I'm sorry. To talk about your experience. It really sort of all came together really beautifully. And I think, and this is what the result is, and it looks like you guys liked it, so thank you.
Maybe we can hear from Jeremy and Gabrielle. Congratulations really on these incredible performances. Jeremy, I want to hear about your response to the script.
The script came to me through my agent, and I was lucky enough to hop on a Zoom pretty short after with Elegance. And he had such a light in his eyes, and to read something that felt so hard and sad at times, for him to be so optimistic, there was just something so beautiful about him. I wanted to protect him. I knew that by him telling his story and giving his truth to us in the way that he did, that it would come at a cost. Because once you give something away like this, you can't get it back. So you guys being here tonight, you're witnessing something that is, can be very vulnerable, because he's sharing and he's opening up himself. But I wanted to be that vessel. I wanted to be a part of that process. To be in a room directed, written by a Black queer man is something I never experienced. So to be able to look across my collaborator and for me to know that he felt me and he understood me and I didn't have to over-explain myself, that it was a safe space to create and to heal. That's what I found on the other side of filming this project. So I'm just extremely grateful that you guys are here tonight. It means so much to be here. And I love you forever.
Gabrielle, your character is very different from you.
I hope.
Well, I think people know you as an artist, an activist, an advocate. So I think you're well known for the causes you stand for as well. So I'm just curious about finding your way into this role.
I realized throughout this process that I had been judging the characters that I played, and that judgment played out on screen. But to find the truth of Inez, I had to go a lot deeper, and I had to find her humanity. And normally in real life, I don't wait around to find the humanity of a homophobe or a racist or a misogynist. I'm like, later. But as a parent of a queer child who does this work every day, who watches my child and young and older kids like her want those connections, want to be seen, want to be loved fully and without condition, I realized I have to go deeper, not just as a mother, not just as an advocate, but as an actor, to find that common ground and that my character's humanity. And in doing that, I realized, as much as I'd like to think not, I did have a lot in common with her. When you think about why we do the things that we do, why we are the way that we are, why we have the desires and the wants and the needs that we do, it comes from someplace. And before she was a mom, she was a girl with dreams. She was smart. She was a good student. She had all these dreams. But when you center the needs of someone who would not spit in your direction if you were on fire, and you make that your gold star, you are willing to barter and gamble and risk all sorts of things, including your children. And while I've never put my kids on the table, I've moved all my chips in for my soul, for relationships, for my scruples. And I've lost every time. So in finding that commonality, it was dark, it was scary, it was disturbing. But I realized that this is the way that I build bridges. This is the way that I reach more people. This is the way that I put more families back together as a mother and as an advocate, including my own family. So, you know, when they say hurt people, well, healed people can lead to the path to more healing for others.
I'll just ask Elegance one more question, then maybe we can take a couple from the audience. Elegance, this idea of a first film where you're telling your story, but there's also this idea of, all the influences you've absorbed. I know you're somebody who's really steeped in cinema and photography and thought a lot about it. So can you tell us a little bit about like the thinking behind?
Well, first I want to give a shout out to Lachlan Milne,
Yeah.
the cinematographer of The Inspection. The whole process of sorting through the various influences coursing through this film wouldn't have been possible without his genius, That being said, I also have to give credit where credit is due to my beautiful life partner, Chester. Chester really made it a point for us to consume images of William Eggleston, particularly his Clouds book, right? Because we filmed everything pretty much in the same location. So how do you make the days feel different? How do you make the space feel expansive? Chester helped me to look at the landscape, right? So once we did that, Sally Mann came into the picture, Terrence Malick came into the picture. In terms of the visual language of the film, Don't Ask, Don't Tell may have gotten its name in the 1990s, but queer service members have been serving in, forced silence and oppression for nearly 80 years in total, right? So Ellis French is a composite of those experiences, and the way we wanted to express that was by making a bit of a hybrid film, right? When we're in French's point of view, this is a handheld European-style cinema movie, right? When we were shooting, very often I would say, people are like, okay, what do we do now? And I'm like, okay, let's just do what Claire Denis would do. And then, what's Terrence Malick would do with these trees, And then when we're looking at French operate in the world, this is a more kind of formal and composed boot camp film, something that would be reminiscent of a Full Metal Jacket or a Jarhead, right? And the idea is to create a visual language that would suggest the shaky ground that queer troops have stood on during that 80 years of, homophobic treatment within the armed services. What does it feel like? So that subjective, intimate, handheld camera work when we're with French. Then when we see him in the world, we see that same person that we emote with, that we feel with, trying to fit into these various kind of masculinity boxes that are, rarely any of us really fit into.
I think we can take maybe one or two audience questions. Yep, we have one right there.
Hi, this question is for Effie. Kwame Moku, Deputy Film Commissioner, how you doing?
Deputy Film Commissioner in the house. Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to, I've worked with you in the past, and I noticed that you have the ability to assemble these amazing groups of people. And I'm just curious to what is your method, your technique for assembling these incredible symphonies of people from these all diverse things and just getting them to collaborate in this way.
I was like, thank you, this is so Jay. Thank you so much for that question.
I'll just repeat the question.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, we'll hear it again.
It's the producer's question for Effie about how she assembles incredible symphonies of people.
I thank you so much for that. And I have to say, it goes back to being able to pick projects that are authentic and that have integrity and that are actually able to leave things better than when you found them. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that we really try to do is to build those cultural bridges. And I have to give a shout out because producers need love, you know? Like my producing partner, Chester, was really integral as well into putting people together. And once you put like one good egg together, another good person comes and another. But I'll be very, very clear. I think one of the reasons why the films that we make and we're a part of right now work so well is because when I'm serious, you can't make something about us without us. It was really important that women, people of color, LGBTQ+, and people with disability were represented behind the screens as well as in front. And when you have that, I think that really makes a remarkable film. Period.
Okay, we can take one more. Yeah, great. It's right there.
Fabulous job. Love. I would like to know if after the movie when the movie ended with your mom, were you able to reconcile any further?
It's a question about Elegance's relationship with his mother and beyond what we see on screen.
Well, no, I didn't get a chance to. Unfortunately, my mom died. I got the movie was greenlit February, I think 14th, and then February 18th I got word that my mother lost her life. So no, but I can say that I'm forever grateful to you, Gabrielle, and you as well, Jeremy, because you managed to bring my mother back to life for me, and to bring me back to places with her that I hadn't been to. The apartment you see in the beginning of the film, I hadn't set foot in that apartment in almost 18 years until it was reconstructed by our incredible production designer, Tommy Love, and Eric Roberts, both production designers. They were amazing. We love you, Eric. But I hadn't been back in my mom's home in almost 18 years at that point. So when I left as a 16-year-old, I had to just go. I didn't have time. I didn't have money for therapy. I didn't have time to think about how it felt. I just had to go and survive and figure out how to get to this point here, And having the generosity of these two incredible artists, you were able to let me go back into a space that I had been banned from, and to remind myself that I was okay then. I was fine. It was never me. It was the house that I grew up in. It was the struggles my mother went through. And I don't really have anything else except gratitude for that. I don't know, I'll tell you this, at the end of the film, there's that scene where she said that I could have left you on any doorstep. Whenever we had issues, my mother would say things like that to me, and I believed her. I believed that I didn't deserve anything because me being gay made her not want me. So if my mother doesn't want me, who would ever want me? And then I got on that set and I heard Gabby and Jeremy go through this experience that was so crushing for me, and it wrecked me that day. And then I got in my car, I went back to the hotel, I ordered dinner, and I was fine now. So I just have so much gratitude for that.
Thank you, Elegance. And thank you to all of you for this beautiful movie. It's our honor to have this. Thank you.